Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Jonathan Lipp, director of the Big Apple Film Festival, coming to you from Gotham Studios here in New York City. So today's episode of the Big Apple Film Festival podcast was inspired by an article that came out last month in Forbes that was titled, Oscar-Nominated Shorts Earn $1 million at the Box Office. And, you know, it's interesting because when we think of short films, we often, think of them as a calling card, something filmmakers use as an opportunity to get seen, get exposure, perhaps acquire representation, maybe get investors for a feature film. But there clearly is a market for short films. And there's a big question, can short films be profitable? Is there an audience for short films? And I think we've seen overwhelming evidence at this point that the answer is yes. The short films, for example, the Oscar-nominated shorts from this season were released together in approximately 700 theaters nationwide. It was estimated that after the run was complete, that it would bring in over $3 million in revenue. I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but that sort of was the projection. Beyond that, we do see many shorts being released now on major streaming platforms. For example, we had a film some years ago called If Anything Happens, I Love You, currently streaming on Netflix. We have there are some horror short films that have actually been screened on Hulu as part of the Halloween Bites series, which Hulu generally puts out every October. Of course, YouTube has countless short films on there, many of which have millions and millions of views. There are distributors that are releasing short films. Gravitas Ventures has put out short films. IFC has put out short films. We have Shorts TV, which has a channel on Prime Video as well. So those short films, of course, are still very much used as a calling card, though they are still used as an opportunity for filmmakers to, as I said, get investors perhaps to make a feature. They also can be used as a standalone film that can get, quite a bit of attention. And so that brings me to our guest that we have with us today, who served as a producer on one of this year's Oscar-nominated short films. The film is called ANUJA. It is currently streaming on Netflix. And the producer of that film, Krushan Naik, is here with us today. So Krushan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Jonathan, for having me on this podcast. This is truly an honor.
Thank you so much. Krushan is actually coming to us from Los Angeles, but he actually was here in New York City a few years back screening another short film of his called RESURGENCE. So, Krushan, before we get into this conversation about short films and getting your perspective, on opportunities for filmmakers, I want to first talk briefly about your film. So first, if you could tell us about the Oscar-nominated short film ANUJA, in which I mentioned you served as producer on. Tell us a little bit about that film, and then your film RESURGENCE that screened at the Big Apple Film Festival.
ANUJA is a story of two sisters, about 9 and 12 years old, who work in a back alley garment factory in New Delhi. And the story touches the topic of child labor. And the younger sister finds herself in a situation where she has to decide, and her decision is basically going to determine the fate of their relationship. It sounds a little dull, but I assure you it's a very uplifting and a joyful story. Because the theme might come across as like, oh my God, too heavy, but it's not. And my other film that I screened at Big Apple Film Festival was RESURGENCE. It's a story about a Kenyan who had a near-death accident in the canyons of southern Utah. And it revolves around the disparity between physical, mental, and emotional recovery of any person who goes through any sort of trauma. And I had the honor of screening it at the Big Apple Film Festival.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Krushan. Appreciate it. So from your experience now, having produced, directed, and been in this world of short films now for quite some time, do you feel from what you've seen that there is a market specifically for short films? If a filmmaker has a story they want to tell, but they feel that they just don't have the budget right now for the feature version, can they get that story told as a short and have an audience for it?
Absolutely. Um, the thing is, the when you say market, it really depends on it's very subjective in my opinion. What is market for short filmmakers? Market could be just YouTube. Market could be distribution. Market could be seeing your shorts, seeing your short on Vimeo Shorts or Vimeo staff picks. So whatever market you determine for yourself is going to be your market. And of course, you want to use it as a calling card to make your next move with the feature film. And yes, all of that is possible. Making a short film, is getting easier and easier with the advancement in technology. And I think we have reached a stage where we can. I mean, we have reached a stage way before where we could like shoot our films on our phones, and which is what I did with my first film, my first substantial film that I wanted to that I was ready to show to the world was Resurgence, and that was completely shot on my iPhone that back then.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and like if you look at the sort of mainstream Hollywood films, we often maybe not necessarily associate them with shorts, but it's interesting. Over the years, I have seen some, well-known A-list talent appear even in short films. I mean, we screened a film at Big Apple Film Festival a few years ago called The Shepherd, which starred John Travolta. We had another film some years back with Amanda Seyfried. It's like we've had films and I've seen plenty of them that do actually have some of these, very well-known talents appearing in shorts. So at some point, do
Yeah.
you see short films kind of making their way into the Hollywood mainstream?
I think yes and no. So it's very hard for short films to get distribution in the mainstream Hollywood, to be honest with you. It's something that very rarely happens, but it does happen. It's not that it doesn't happen. Um, what we need to understand is a short film really needs a lot of weight in terms of accreditations and nominations and maybe even celebrity attachments to be able to see that short film reach that level of success. And it's hard. I would not sugarcoat it. It's hard, but not impossible.
Yeah, and over the years, we've also seen numerous short films used, as I said before, as calling cards to get investors and ultimately to make the feature film. And there are many, many
Absolutely.
features that started out as shorts. Some of the most well-known of those are probably films like Saw, started out as a short film, eventually made
Yeah.
into a feature. Some years back, Kimberly Pierce's short film For Boys Don't Cry ultimately became the feature film, which starred Hilary Swank. Would you still say that now is it's still probably one of the best ways to get a feature made is to start with a short film?
I wouldn't say I mean, yes, one of the best ways to get a feature made is definitely a short film because once you see having a script is one thing and watching a short is a different thing because I don't know if people are familiar. There's an old phrase that says what's on paper doesn't really translate to the screen or translate on the screen. And if you have a short film that can basically show everything that's in your mind, that we have been reading on the paper, it's in a way your calling card. Like you know what you wanted to do with the film, you did it, and now you're hoping that someone will help you make that feature film. So having that, visual translation of your script definitely helps. If you made a film that you were not thinking it if you made a film that got all the recognition, but you were not thinking of making a feature out of it, or if the topic was not is not elaborate table. Sorry, that's not even a word, but if it's something that you don't want to translate into a feature, then you probably might have to restart your process and have something substantial to show to the investors so that they are okay, so that they want to put the money behind your project. So that's basically how I would read this.
Yeah, I mean, and with all these opportunities, I'm just gonna kind of flip this for a second. With all the opportunities that are available, like the ones that I mentioned earlier, like
Mm-hmm.
Shorts
Mm-hmm.
TV and Prime Video and
Yeah.
all the streaming platforms and YouTube and all of this, do you think that perhaps there are too many opportunities, therefore forcing the market to become somewhat saturated and making it that more difficult for a filmmaker's short film to really stand out?
Yes and no. I think a good film will always stand out. There's more to just having your film on a distribution, get distribution or be on a streaming platform. We are in a world where we have to market ourselves. And that is something that comes not just after the film, but like, even a big blockbuster, even before it starts shooting, you will see their Instagram page come up and, the PR is already working on the buzz with all the names attached to the film and this and that. Of course, on a short film, or if you are just starting out as a filmmaker in the industry, it's harder because the maximum reach that you're going to get when you're starting out is basically going to be your friends and family. So if you know your audience and if you keep your expectations low, whatever comes after that is going to be a surprise after a surprise after a surprise, and you are going to, be taken aback by what you were able to do. If you start out thinking, I want to, take this film to the Oscars, and if you don't even get into one film festival, the amount of rejection and not the rejection, it's not the right word, but the amount of disappointment that you might feel might not be, something that you had expected before. Having said that, when going back to your question, what you said about, are there too many opportunities? Yes, but also just thinking about from how many submissions a film festival gets, and like, I'm sure Big Apple gets thousands of submissions, and you cannot program all these films. So I mean, are there enough platforms to show all the films that get submitted to all the film festivals in the world? No. But are there enough platforms where people can showcase their films? Yes, but you will have to work really hard for it, not only while filmmaking, but after that. You have to take your film to places. You have to basically, it's like an artist going different cities and performing, and trying to build their market. And I think that's exactly how we independent filmmakers will need to do. We need to go city by city by city to be able to, like, connect with the audience over there. And that was my goal with my first film, Resurgence. I wanted to screen Resurgence in every state of America, all the 50 states of America. And I didn't quite make it to all the 50 states, but there was I did do pretty good with that. So yes, there are platforms. Yes, there are a lot of opportunities, but it's not going to just come to you because of how crowded the market is right now. You will have to do it yourself, and you'll have to push it out yourself. You'll have to go there. You will have to do the hard work. You'll have to do the legwork to push it constantly. And there will be thousands of rejections, but you just need one yes for things to, just skyrocket.
Right. One of the things you mentioned was, your first audience may be your family and friends, right? Um,
Yes.
Now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that can often be a very positive thing, and that can really be leveraged into something great. And I think a perfect example of that this year was the short documentary, "The Only Girl in the Orchestra," which won the Oscar this year in the short documentary
Yes.
subject category. And that film is about the first woman member of the New York Philharmonic. It's a very, very New York film, so I really loved it. I really appreciated it, and that is a film in which a family member makes this film. It's a very personal story where she's literally. It's primarily an interview where she's interviewing. I believe it's her. I believe it's her great aunt or her grandma. I'm not certain, but she's interviewing her and she's talking about her experience as being the first woman in the New York Philharmonic. And this is a personal story, even
Yeah.
though, of course, the New York Philharmonic is obviously a world-renowned organization. This is about her, a member of her family. and sort of that's the basis for it. But of course, it goes on to become very mainstream kind of film. It really touches upon a lot of universal topics, and it goes out to a general audience. Ends up winning the Oscar. It's now currently screening on Netflix. I think that's a great example, actually, of just starting out, doing something personal with your family that can really spread. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, if there's any other ways in which a filmmaker can leverage, whether it's family, friends, their own network, their social media followers. What are some of the best ways, approaches, strategies that a filmmaker can use to leverage their own network, their own community, to get their short film out into the world?
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you when you said, like, that's an advantage of, having family and friends as your first audience, or, if you're lucky, your family and friends are in the field and they can help you, because what you said about budget constraints, short films typically, if we all had, the money, everyone would go for a feature film. We go for short films because it takes less time, and also the budgets are like, it's always time crunch and money crunch. So if you have friends and family who are willing to support you and help you, then absolutely go for it. If there is a story within your family that you think that has a universal theme, or if you can stitch it in a way that can be connected with people globally, go for it. That should be your first step towards, trying to get a short film out, even if it's not connecting with a global audience. If you think that you want to start with a short film and like you don't know what to do, and if you want to like play it safe, play with people and the resources that you have at your disposal, so that if you make mistakes, they don't cost you too much. Right. Now, having said that, when you work with people, when you work with your friends and family, if they are not from the film industry, or if they don't understand these things, it could also get complicated, and the quality might not, the outcome of your film might not be as polished as you thought of. But that's okay. If you're starting out, don't worry about that. It's just you are just practicing, and don't worry about the end result even before you have started making the film, is what I'm trying to say. You just go out there, make what you have, and then grow from that. Take advantage of everything that's available to you, all the resources that you have at your disposal, as opposed to trying to go overboard and be like, oh, I'm gonna get this equipment, get that equipment, or I want to work with this person, I want to work with that person. If it's not in your budget, don't do it. That's basic. Maybe that's not the time to do that. Imagine what happens, like, let's say if you made a film for $25,000 or $5,000. Sorry, my piece fell off. I'll do that again. Imagine, for example, let's say you made a film for $5,000 or $25,000, and it ended up, playing at many festivals. You won a lot of awards, and you were able to get a lot of press. And someone who you had desired to work with read that article, and in the next project, you were able to pitch your next short film to them, and they agreed to do it. It's basically, it's a building block process in my perspective. You have to give it time. You have to work on multiple projects to be able to get where you want to get.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned was, using what's at your disposal. You're using your resources. There's a really great example of this as well. There is a YouTube channel. I haven't been on it in a while, so I'm not totally sure if it's still there. I mean, I assume it probably is. I haven't been on it in quite some time, and I believe it's called 6-Second Shorts. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but every single film on there, I believe, it's 6 seconds or something like that. It's like whatever it is, 4 seconds, 6 seconds, whatever it is. And it's just these, I mean, talk about, micro budget, but, and you think to yourself, well, how can you tell a story in that much time? But I will tell you, interestingly enough, a lot of these films, they really work. I mean, you're watching 5 6 seconds, it's over. You're like, wow, I actually just really enjoyed that. So
Well,
it's interesting when you say you just use whatever resources you have. You could really do anything as long as you do it in a clever, creative, innovative way and make a whole thing out of it. The last time I was on that YouTube channel, I mean, they have hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of subscribers at this point. So, yeah, I
no,
mean, it's
it works. It really works. I see there is audience for every sort of content that you made. I'm using the word content. I don't typically like to use the word content, but like there is audience for extremely short 6 second, content on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. There is audience for short films. There is audience for feature films. I think what we all make a mistake with, like, this is the film and I'm going to go and walk the Oscars red carpet. That's not going to work. That's not how you should, make that trajectory. Understand your end game first, with the film that you're creating, where you want to see it. It could be YouTube, like I said. It could be Vimeo Shorts, Vimeo staff picks, or it could be, Shorts TV, for example. And if you are able to achieve that goal, that's your goal one. Once you have done that, put the goalpost a little further away and then start playing again. So that is how I would approach. I would say that's calculated risks. And along that road, if something major happens, it's all good stuff. So that's how I would say all the people don't put all your eggs in one basket, as they say. Don't put all the money that you have into this one short film. We live in an era where, people typically, really go crazy sometimes, and, they think that this is the way. But I don't know if I would recommend someone, doing that. I would always say, yes, please take calculated risks. A little bit on top or less is okay, but not too much. Don't go too crazy with these things.
right. Yeah, I mean,
And
yeah. Mhm.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Also, what you said, in terms of the resources, something that worked for me was with my first film, Resurgence. It was a documentary, 19-minute documentary. What I did was, I wanted to go to every film festival and, like, attend these film festivals. The reason why I wanted to attend film festivals was to be able to build connections with the film festivals, the people who organize these film festivals. These are my avenues where I can connect, network and understand how the industry is working, because, film festivals have these panels, they have all these people coming in, and, every person's journey is different. So when you are there, yes, you are there to celebrate your victory, but also that's the time that you talk to the people who go put the festival together, the other filmmakers, and try and understand their journey. There will be, it's like reading, talking to, people at film festivals. It's like, look at it as like reading a book. You will get some or the other thing from every individual that you talk to, their journey, what they are doing with their film, and different, doors will open, for you, or you'll have more knowledge about something. This is exactly how what happened with me and my film, and that's how I learned about more festivals. That's how I learned about people in the industry who are doing what they're doing. And like I said, my goal was to screen my film in 50 different states of America, and that's what I was on a mission with. And at the same time, I wanted to build this relationship with film festivals and the people who run them, so that, when I have my next film, I could, reach out to them and say, like, hey, I was there with my first film. I have another film coming out. I know, the getting into a film festival is very competitive, but, maybe, I think that this might align with your XYZ block, and hence I'm just reaching out to you again. At the same time, if you want to try, you could also, there are festivals who help you with press. Press is very important. And, if you can manage to get more press out of it, or if you can manage to get, you can, if you can manage to get some PR from it, great. It's going to help you. And, all those things after, let's say maybe after 5 years, when you put all these things together, it's like your portfolio. So these are little things that you can do when you are starting out, or if even if you're like seasoned filmmaker, short filmmaker and you're doing stuff, there are so many different avenues or ways you can leverage one short film. It's just you need to be creative, and you need to be open-minded about all the possibilities that come in your way, that come for you. And you have to the outcome might not be your desired one, but that's not the point over here. What you can do is whatever comes your way, take it, use it, and make something out of it. Which
Yeah.
is that's what I would say from my experience.
Yeah, I mean, and you make a great point about going to film festivals and meeting people and learning and being inspired by everybody around you. I think no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're an artist, a filmmaker, an actor, writer, musician, whatever it might be, entrepreneur, whatever it is you do, it's the idea of picking up ideas from as many people as you can, bringing all
Yes.
those ideas together, and then making it your own. And I think that's how any successful individual has accomplished things, in their lives. So I think that certainly is a really good point. Now, in terms of getting that type of attention that can get you nominated for an Academy Award or to win an Academy Award, obviously, filmmakers, that's sort of for many filmmakers, not all, for many, that would certainly be the dream, right? And which you have had experienced. So we actually also screened a film at the Big Apple Film Festival this year, which was nominated for an award called I
I'm
Am
not
Not a
a
Robot.
robot.
Yeah, and I Am Not a Robot ended up winning the Oscar in the short film live action category, of which you were also nominated along with for ANUJA. So
Yeah.
what advice do you have for a filmmaker whose goal is to get that Academy Award nomination? And again, I'm not saying that should be the ultimate goal, and for many filmmakers, it not necessarily is. But of course, that is a huge opportunity. So what would you say would be your advice if that's your goal? You want that Oscar nomination.
Yeah, I that's a very tough question to answer, but I there's no set formula for that. Okay, we didn't. Oh, it's a tough one. Yes. So, okay, I'll say this. Yes, I'm not a robot. Screened at Big Apple Film Festival. We submitted a new job to Big Apple. It got rejected. It's hard to get into Big Apple but get nominated. So, audiences listening out there should know how big a Big Apple is.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
The,
And
the
Anuja was
thing is,
actually on our short list. That was one of our finalists. And it was just so close, but unfortunately, just
I know.
only so many time
It's
slots.
tough. It's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough. We get it. Totally get it. Um, See, like I said, there's no set formula for, getting there. We, I'll just share what we did and how it worked for us. If it works for you, great. If not, you'll probably create a different path for yourself. Um, we went the festival route, and we won at Holly Short Film Festival under the Oscar qualifying film category. So film festivals, I cannot stress enough the importance of film festivals in the lives of independent filmmakers, especially, or even, you see established filmmakers or studio films also playing at film festivals. Um, that is the route that we took with Anuja, and we won at Holly Shorts, which is when, when you win, when you have enough accreditations, and applauds, the buzz spreads, and then you will have support from people, who want to support your project or who believe in your project, or who believe in your film. And, those opportunities will open up as you progress. So that's why I said there is no set formula, because different doors will open at different times in this process. You might win closer to, Academy submission date. You might win farther away from that date. But whatever you do with that time, from the time you get qualified for the Academy until the shortlist voting begins. Because once you win at an Oscar qualifying film festival, in the specific category that qualifies you for the Oscars next year, you have to put in a lot of work. There's, like I said, there's a lot of PR work. There's a lot of, the there's a lot of, you got to do a lot of screenings and invite Academy members to, to come and watch your film and, probably basically vote for your film. So that's one part of it. And at the same time, if you can get, if you can get the press talking about you or your film, that's a bonus point. And as the story, as you move on, let's say you get shortlisted and then, the nomination comes, it's basically doubling down on what you did before the shortlisting, and, until the nominations. Once the nominations are done, it's, the final voting, you've got to like triple down on it. And, it's just, that's the whole process that goes from uh December, I think, or from the time you get qualified until however far you make it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned about your win at Holly Shorts and how important that is, because it's true. Filmmakers definitely, yeah, should leverage the film festival system, and it's important to look at all different types of film festivals, big, small, medium.
Yeah.
Look, your win at Holly Shorts, I mean, ultimately led to you being nominated for an Academy Award. So I think festival strategy is super important, and looking at which film festivals to enter, I think, is also extremely important. And it's important to look at what your goals are, right? If you, for example, you have a horror film, look at horror festivals. If you have a documentary, perhaps certain documentary festivals might be the way to go. If you feel you do have a real opportunity at an Oscar nomination, there are certain festivals that are good for that. So I think it's just a matter of finding the right fit for your particular film, which you clearly did perfectly, and you were able to get that Oscar nomination. So
That's a good point that you mentioned, Jonathan. I cannot stress the importance of film festivals and also attending them if you can. I know it can get very expensive to go to a film festival and attend and all that, but if you can, please, because a film festival is only going to benefit you if you are there and take advantage of everything that they have to offer. And like I said, relationships are the most important thing for me. And you have to do your research when you submit to the film festival. That it doesn't matter if you get rejected, accepted, this, that, but don't just submit to Oscar qualifying film festivals because they have that label on whatever website you're submitting your film through. Uh, you There's no such thing as these are the best film festivals for this project. Even a small film festival can help you get that audience in front of the big screen, because it is so hard in today's world to get people to the theater to watch something that you have created, because there's so much stuff out there. So if a film festival is able to do that for you, if the film festival is able to get you some press, if the film festival is able to help you move that project from A to B to C, great. That is your festival. That may be Oscar qualifying, that may not be Oscar qualifying, but that's not the point. When you go to a film festival, even if you're moving in any direction, but if you're moving further with your project, with your film, it's progress, and you should take advantage of that. And if that's one route for short films. You could also release short films in a theater if you have the money, and if you want to get qualified and all that stuff. But going through the festival route also helps you get the buzz that your film needs to be able to push that forward. And like I said, I'm a huge film festival in-person theater screening guy, so I cannot stress the importance of film festivals. In fact, I found the love of my life at a film festival. She's also a filmmaker. Now we are married. My first film, got the many awards that it got through film festival, and I was able to, make whatever portfolio I was able to make for my life, and like, for to pitch myself to other people to be able to collaborate, them came from film festivals. All the connections that I've made in the industry, all of my friends, are from film festivals. I am a product of film festival, and I've had ample of rejections, but that has not made me resentful towards any film festival. If I got rejected from one film festival before, I would still submit. And you have been running Big Apple for so many years. There is so much that goes into making that program. And like you said, ANUJA made it to the final list, but sorry, it made it to the short list
Right.
for Big Apple, but didn't make it to the final, and that's okay. You if not this one, I'll probably come with the next one. It's always a hit or miss, and what I have seen or what I have also heard is like people sometimes when they get rejected, they send these resentful emails saying like, this your film festival sucks and this, that. I never even wanted to be there. I'm like, don't do that. You don't know what goes behind, the whole programming. There is a logic that you don't know, probably you will never know, and that's not for you to know. What you can do is submit and just hope for the best. And like I said, you may get 1,000 rejections, but you just need one yes to make it.
Yeah, that's great. And I have to tell you, I really respect and appreciate your positive, response to it. If you're not selected, and you're right, you do get some filmmakers who are very angry, but they don't understand behind the scenes, right? Like for example, I'm just putting an example out there, like if a film festival, let's say like for us, we've had a situation where we had a time slot to screen a short film before a feature. And we had two films that were really great, really both excellent films. One of them, let's say, is 8 minutes long. The other one is 27 minutes long. If we select the 27-minute one, it perhaps makes the program a bit too long. So therefore, we take the 8-minute film. Then what happens, the person who did not get selected, the 27-minute film, will get perhaps an email angry. Why wasn't I selected? And it's like, right. But like you just said, there are certain administrative aspects to this and internal things. It doesn't mean your film isn't good, right? I mean, look at ANUJA, right? Not selected, goes on to be nominated for an Oscar. It's on Netflix. It's an incredible, wonderful film. So yeah, there's just a lot of logistics to it. So I really love the fact that you have such a positive, attitude about it. You have such a positive way of viewing it. And if you look at your positivity and now look where you are, nominated for an Academy Award. So, I mean, it's so important to sort of keep that positive outlook. So that's, that's really awesome.
It's important in today's industry. It's very important. And you have to understand that, these things will come and go, but what will stay is good relationships. And, that's how I look at it. I don't force anyone to look at it that way. I mean, to each its own, but this is how I look at these things.
Yeah, you're right. And in terms of relationships, also just to put some advice out there as well, if a filmmaker is not selected and a film festival, director or screening committee manager or someone that, receives like a nasty response or a nasty email, remember, a lot of these festival directors and festival staff know each other. So they're going to speak to their colleagues, and say, hey, listen, if you get this selection, if you get this entry, I'm just letting you know, this may not be a filmmaker you want to work with and collaborate with. I just want you to know, and here's a copy of that email. So you want to keep that positive, outlook, because it's so important. And one of the other things you mentioned was, the importance of submitting to all different types of festivals, big festivals, small festivals. Just two examples I can think of. There was these are regarding feature films. There was a feature film. It was a horror film feature, and it screened at a series of smaller horror festivals. But throughout that run, it actually built up an audience. Eventually, made its way onto Amazon, and actually turned a very nice profit. And that process of building that audience actually started on that film festival circuit, smaller, horror festivals, regional festivals, but they were able to kind of build an audience. There was another film. It was a Jewish themed film. It was a documentary, a feature. Again, only played Jewish film festivals, right? But nonetheless, they built a huge audience nationwide from that. Ultimately, released the film theatrically, and actually brought in a couple $1 million in revenue nationwide. Again, they found their audience through, Jewish film festivals. So it's true. Like, yes, you want to go for those big festivals, most definitely. But at the same time, there are a lot of opportunities out there to get in front of an audience and to build an audience and get press and get that attention from all different types of festivals.
Like I said, if you have to understand and have a perspective in mind about what is important for you, if you are only submitting your film to an Oscar qualifying film festival to win that category with that aim, and if it doesn't happen, you are really, really going to get very disappointed. But if you have a film, when you have a film, and if you are thinking, okay, the next year or two, it's going to be a wonderful journey of me being able to go to different cities and, or not even going to different cities. Let's just say I'm in LA, and if I submit it to the different film festivals in Los Angeles and within California, because I can drive there and I don't have to, spend a lot of money to fly to the other side of the country to attend a film festival. Going to these film festivals and like, leveraging that should, if that's your agenda, and if you win after that, boy, you've had such a wonderful journey.
Yeah, and you were talking about the importance of in person. If you could just expand upon that a bit, because very often, unfortunately, obviously things today are very expensive. Travel and all that. Not every festival can accommodate everybody with travel expenses. So, if you could just elaborate a bit on the importance of in person and how that's benefited you.
So I'm not from America. I came here in 2019. And when I started submitting my film to film festivals, I wanted to attend all of them, and I had to figure out a way to do it. Not that I had a lot of money or anything like that. What my secret sauce was, I had a credit card that I was using for years, and I had saved up a lot of points. So I used all of those points to be able to take advantage of going to film festivals. Why I wanted to do that was because I wanted to learn about different people, different film festivals, different cultures, and that was also the only way for me to travel to different cities in America. And I went to cities that I would have typically not traveled to because I didn't have any reason to, like, oh, I want to go to, let's say I want to go to California. If I was not living in California, I'd be like, I'm going to go to San Francisco or, Los Angeles and maybe San Diego or, big cities. But I would have never known of Gilroy, and there was a film festival in Gilroy which I attended. So, this was my agenda. It was not only just winning and this and that. I was like, hey, I want to experience different cities, and because I like to travel and I like to like experience different cuisines and stuff like that. That was one of the things that I wanted to do with film festival. The other was networking. I didn't know anyone in this industry. I wanted to make connections. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to like, tell people like, hey, I'm also a filmmaker. I'm starting out and I would love to collaborate with you if there's anything out there. That was another reason. Third reason, like I said, I wanted to build these connections with film festivals and, but especially people like you, directors of film festivals, and like talk to them about how film festivals operate. By going to film festival, I also learned how things work behind the scene. Because when I'm there, I can be like, hey, do you have 5 minutes? I want to talk to you. What goes behind programming? What goes behind, getting a film festival together? And why do you do what you do? So this is all a learning process. If you're a serious filmmaker and if you want all these things, different things are important. The fourth reason was, what if there's a press opportunity at a film festival and, maybe get those pictures and, and I also, this is something very personal. Um, when I was going the festival doing the festival rounds with Resurgence, I was also preparing for my artist visa. And whatever wins and whatever press I could acquire from these film festivals, I use that for my artist visa, and that's how also I got my artist visa because of the film festivals. So there's a lot more, and I can keep talking for around the 3 hours of like what happened, where, when, how. So I really cannot. So my life exists because of film festivals, from my personal life to my professional life to everything that I have done, all the people who have supported me and all the people who have helped me out. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was working as a screener for Big Apple after my first film, I had reached out to you asking like, hey, would you be able to write me a letter saying I was working as a screener, for Big Apple Film Festival? And I used that because in my visa portfolio to tell them like I had done this. So these are small things that not a lot of people understand about these things. Maybe it's not applicable to everyone, but understand one thing. Whatever I did, whatever portfolio I made, it's the same portfolio that I'm using right now to pitch myself to other filmmakers. It was not only because I wanted to do it for my visa or anything. The visa is aligned with the requirements of the visa are aligned with how the industry works, in a way. So there is so much out there, and sometimes a filmmaker will get something out of a film festival that will stay with them forever. Big Apple was also my first ever screening in New York. So that was an opportunity for me. So I have a soft corner for Big Apple Film Festival. Accepted, rejected, doesn't matter. I screened my first film, for first substantial film in New York, and I got my premiere at New York, and my uncle and my aunt, they live in New Jersey. They came to watch my film. That's a moment that's never going to go away from me. So I assure you, every filmmaker has some or the other kind of stories that are associated with different kinds of film festivals. So it all goes back to what you want to take out of it. What is your vision? Well, how do you want to put yourself out there? Are you, just, out there to get those acclaims and wins and stuff, or are you a person of relationships and want to support film festivals and theatrical screenings and in-person screenings and in-person engagement? Like, I wish I was closer to New York. I would have driven there to be with you in this room right now to do this podcast, because I am an in-person person. I don't know if that's the way to say it. There is something about sitting in front of a person and talking to that person, looking in their eyes, and like making, having that stuff. But that's just me. Again, you take, like I said, take what helps you from this and leave the rest.
Wow, yeah, that's really great. You're right. It's whatever you choose to make that experience be.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point. Very often filmmakers will think of a film festival as, okay, I want to go there, get exposure for my film, hopefully acquire an agent or a manager, perhaps sell it to a distributor. And all of that stuff obviously is very important. But yeah, there's so many other things. You meet people, you network, you had your opportunity to screen your first film in New York City and have your family there. Much like yourself, we had another couple a few years ago who met at Big Apple Film Festival who are married now as well.
Wow.
So we've had a few of those
Love
stories
that.
now. Yeah. There are things you don't even think of, or just experiences and opportunities and all of these are little steps that lead up to, bigger goals, right?
Exactly, exactly. These are the little things. Don't forget about the smaller things in this big picture. And Hollywood is very good at deceiving you like that. All you see is all those big glitz and glam. But what is your reality? Your reality, my reality at Big Apple Film Festival was I wanted my family to be there. That was my expectation. Anything more than that, all the people sitting in that room was, those sprinklers on cake for me. And that's
Yeah.
how I love enjoying, these small moments in life, because that's who I am.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, your perspective is really wonderful, and I hope that those who are listening are really inspired by what you have to say, because I most certainly am.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, in conclusion, if you could tell us what the future holds for the two films that we mentioned, ANUJA, which is currently, like I said, streaming on Netflix, and then Resurgence as well. Are these films going to be screening elsewhere? Are either of them perhaps going to be made into a feature? Or where are we at with both of those projects?
No, so not into feature, because Resurgence it's an older film now, and I'm done with that film. ANUJA came after, like, between Resurgence and ANUJA. I also had another horror comedy, Unrest in Peace. which did its festival run. It was a very specific genre, which so it did a lot of horror film festivals, and ANUJA is the biggest one so far. And for me personally, my goal next is feature films. I've done so much. We've put in so much time and energy behind, this whole Oscar campaign and ANUJA that I've like short filmed out. I might come back to it. I don't know, but as of now, the next goal would be to look for opportunities for feature films and get into the big picture league. So yeah, that's where I am with this.
Great. Well, thank you, Krushan. In conclusion, as this conversation has been primarily focused on short films, again, just a couple of the ones that I mentioned, Big Apple Film Festival selection. The first one of the earlier ones I mentioned, If Anything Happens, I Love You, the film was titled, which was nominated for an Oscar as well, is currently streaming on Netflix. Another film that I mentioned in short documentary, The Only Girl in the Orchestra, which won the Oscar this year in the short documentary subject category, is also streaming on Netflix. Krushan's film, ANUJA, which Krushan produced, which was shortlisted for the Big Apple Film Festival, it was nominated for the Oscar, currently streaming on Netflix. Another film that we screened this year at Big Apple and actually won the award for Best Short Film was I Am Not a Robot, which ended up winning the Oscar in the short film category. And then Krushan's film Resurgence, is that going to be, is there an opportunity for audiences to check that?
I'm thinking maybe I'll put it on Vimeo or YouTube, but for now it's just on my hard drive and it's done its festival run. So I'm kind of like, just revisiting all the films that I worked on and see what's the best way to, keep them alive. So that's TBD.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And keep in mind as well, Big Apple Film Festival also is distributing short films on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist called BAFF on Demand, where we have a series of short films currently streaming. So that's another opportunity. And again, just keep in mind, if you're making films, if you've made a short film, there are so many opportunities now available. Netflix is streaming shorts. Hulu is streaming short films. As I mentioned, every October, they have their Halloween Bites shorts. You have distributors who are putting shorts out there like IFC Films, Gravitas Ventures. There are just so many opportunities now for short films. As Krushan mentioned as well, Vimeo, if you end up being a Vimeo staff pick, that's really great exposure as well. So the opportunities are really endless. So thank you, Krushan, for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right.
It's an honor. I'm a huge fan of Big Apple Film Festival, and I'm never going to forget that Big Apple gave me the opportunity to screen my film in New York. That's always going to stay with me.
Thank you so much, Krushan. Again, I'm Jonathan Lipp, founder and director of the Big Apple Film Festival, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.